Today is the very first of a series of House on the Rock church interviews, and I'm sitting here today with Sister Kathleen Petrillo, the wife of the founder of House on the Rock Church. Her husband, Pastor Gary Sr., has gone on to be with the Lord, but we're just so grateful that we have Sister Kathy here to tell us about the origins of House on the Rock Church, as well as the origins of her relationship with Jesus Christ. Sister Kathy has such a funny, interesting story. It's filled with joy, and she's such a loving person. And it's just amazing to know that she went through so much as a child, she and her sisters, but yet she is so loving, one of the most loving people that I know. So I'm just so honored to be sitting here with you today.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So before we begin with the origins of House on the Rock Church, can you tell us what your life was like as a young person growing up, and how you came to know the Lord?
Yes. I grew up in a family with my mom and dad. I had five siblings, a brother and 4 sisters. My father had a decent job. He worked a decent job, made good money, but he was an alcoholic. And the sad thing is, the job he worked for was for the brewery. He worked for Schaefer's Brewery. So, he drank a lot and stuff. He made good money, and he could have supported us, but unfortunately, he was addicted to alcohol. And he had his brothers also that worked for different breweries. They all worked for Pils, Wrangell, all the different breweries in Brooklyn, And, but my mother always said that they were, even though they were alcoholics, they were functioning alcoholics. They were able to take care of their families and pay their bills. Where my dad, unfortunately, couldn't do the right thing. He would just drink, and at his job, he had a job where they could have all the beer they wanted for nothing. But when he got his paycheck, he would go up to the nearest bar, and he'd just start treating everybody, being a big shot with everyone. And meantime, his family's home. And my mother has no money, and it'd be dinner time, and she'd feel bad, like sometimes there was no food in the house. So we would have to go to bed without supper, and she said, when your dad gets home, I'll go to the store and get something. But he would come home so late, and when she finally got to check out his wallet, there was a lot of the times there was no money in it. So now we're laying in bed, and we're hungry, and all we want to do is go to sleep. We used to have a saying in our house, the best way to beat hunger is to go to bed before breakfast and wake up after dinner. We used to joke about it. I always thank God we have a sense of humor that we laughed. Like I said, getting angry and bitter. As we got older, we laughed a lot about things. But what happened was he would finally come home, and I remember I'd be laying in bed, and I'd say, God, don't let him come home. I didn't want nothing to happen to him. I just didn't want him in that condition. It was like living with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
I understand.
Because he was one way when he was sober, but another way when he was drunk. And I used to have the habit of putting my fingers in my ears, and I start kicking my feet, and I make these noises because I would hear his voice as he's coming down. And I knew now there's going to be trouble with him and my mom fighting, and because she was upset because there was no food. She had to send the kids to bed hungry. And at that time, you didn't go around telling people your business, because you always told to keep everything inside the house.
Yes.
So a lot of times she couldn't go telling people, And a lot of the neighbors, they would get free food here and there, but she couldn't get it because my dad was living with us, and my mother wouldn't lie. Some would say the husband's not with him, whatever, but she couldn't do that. So sometimes, like her good friends, they would come and they'd give us stuff, for us. But anyway, he would come home, and, I'd take my fingers down my ears, and I'm thinking maybe he's sleeping, and then I hear him getting louder and louder. And then, you're afraid to say anything, like, Dad, please, we want to go to sleep, we got to go to school. And then he started screaming and yelling, well, I got to get up in the morning too, and he'd start yelling at us. And then my mother would say something, and the whole big thing would break out. And then my brother would say, you and your big mouth, look what you started. So you're afraid to open up your mouth and say anything. So you just lay there, and then my mother would say, okay, time to go to school, wake up. And we look at her like, wake up. Never went to sleep. He had us up all night, And then you go to school, and the nuns and all would want to teach you, and you really want to learn. It's not like you didn't want to learn, you did. But you were just so tired, you were hungry, and then you got made fun of what uniform because our uniforms were like, because we wore them year after year, they were getting old and stuff, you know. And some of the kids would make fun of you and stuff because your tie was shredding, your shirt wasn't white anymore, and your uniform was like getting lint balls on them, like, you know, you could pull them off. Your socks would be held up with rubber bands.
Oh my.
Yeah, but the funny thing we laughed about is every year they would give us free shoes, you know, and they would call you on the loudspeaker. Though when I think back, they mentioned all the names: William Duran, Patricia Duran, Kathleen Duran, Eileen Duran, come to the office, and everybody would be laughing. Oh yeah, they're getting their free shoes, the Duran kids, you know. And then we'd be walking home, and we had the box, you know. We'd be like, one part's excited because you got new shoes, but the other part you have everybody laughing at you, you know, and stuff. So it was hard. I hated going to school. I hated going home. And then I remember I had a nun, and she was very mean to me, and I don't know why. I don't think I was ever disrespectful to her. I was terrified of her. And what happened was she used to make fun of my uniform in front of the kids. Yeah, and then one day we were in class and we were doing math, and math was my favorite subject. So I figured, you know, wait till she sees what I did, because she put the problem on the board, but I already knew the answer in my head. So I thought instead of writing the whole problem, I was just going to write the answers.
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind, I thought I was doing something that looked like I was so smart,
Yes.
but in her mind, she took it I was being lazy. So all of a sudden she came, she goes, "You lazy piece of work," and she grabbed me by the hair of my head and pulled me out of my chair in front of the whole class. And all of a sudden the kids were like looking, and they used to laugh at me, but I think at that time they were like felt so bad for me. And you know, you didn't go home, you didn't tell your parents, because you know, if a nun yelled at you, you got in trouble with a nun, then it was a big thing. And I said, you know, I can't tell my parents. I said, God, I can't tell you, because she was wearing your wedding ring, she's married to you, because that's what we were taught, that nuns
Yes.
stayed single because they married God.
But you were telling him
And I said,
already.
God, your problems are worse than mine. You married Sister Patrice, and this is how I felt, you know.
Oh, goodness.
So, you know, I kept a lot in because, again, you couldn't tell anything in your house. You wanted to tell them, look, you don't know what's going on, why don't you go to my house? Or they'd say something like, where's your tuition? You're late again. And my sisters and I would say, you know, what are we supposed to do? We're just kids. We can't pay if we don't have it.
Yes.
And I would think like, why don't you go home and wake up my dad from his hangover and ask him where the money is?
Yes.
You know, what are you asking me? But, so I hated school. I hated it. And then you had to go home. And I didn't want to go home because I didn't know like if the gas and lights were going to be on, because a lot of times they didn't pay the bill. And my dad was shrewd. We lived in a court where it was all bungalows. And he would talk to the neighbor next door and say, oh, you know, you think if I give you $5, I can run a line to get some electric? And the neighbor would do it, but after a week or two, he didn't give him the money. So then he asked the next neighbor, and then he'd run the wire over that side, you know. So it was a lot, you know. So you had to go home to that, you know, and stuff. And I remember, like, no food, like, if there was, we would have, like, ketchup sandwiches, mustard sandwiches, sugar sandwiches. That's what we were eating, yeah. And then sometimes, because we're always drinking water, we started taking syrup, and we started putting syrup in the water, you know. So eventually I just started going out there with my friends and my family after that. I just lived outside, and I didn't want to go home. So I started getting involved in a lot of stuff. I started stealing and drinking, doing drugs, all crazy stuff. But I thought, well, Lord, it's not my fault. You know, if my dad would do the right thing,
Yes.
I have nice clothes like the other kids, I wouldn't be here taking this, or I have food in the house and stuff. So I grew up thinking everything I did was his fault, and it was okay, and God understood.
Yes.
But I didn't realize there was going to come a time when I'm going to stand before God and I have to answer for what I did. You know, I couldn't keep blaming God, my fault for everything, that it was my fault, you know. So, you know, as I got older, I got into more stuff and things like that. And then eventually, I don't know how it happened though, I know God must have had his hand over me the whole time, because I always talked to God. I
Yes.
always did. A lot of times I'd be home, I'd be in the bathroom, because we didn't have privacy. I slept in a room with 4 of us in one bedroom, so the only privacy you got is if you went in the bathroom. So I would go in there and I'd pull out to God and stuff, you know. And sometimes I'd be on the street and I'd act like one of the toughest ones, because I had to be tough to be cool and whatever, but God knew the real me. He knew how I really was inside, you know. So it wasn't until later on and stuff when I figured the way out of the house, I got married. It was the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I got married for all the wrong reasons, just to get out of the house. and it just was worse. You know, it was like Monday through Sunday just fighting all the time, not getting along. And not that he was a bad guy, it's just what I wasn't ready for it. I didn't care about myself, so I couldn't care about him.
Yeah.
And he came from a rough home also, so we took our anger on each other. And 2 years later, I had my daughter Kelly, and eventually I found out she had different handicaps and stuff, so I went through a lot with her, back and forth to hospitals, close to death. I couldn't even tell you, from bad seizures, and a couple times she exasperated, which was really bad, and they had to put tubes down her, and they had to put her on machines and stuff. It was horrible seeing that as a child, you know.
Yes.
But that's when I started feeling, I guess, love, because I love my child so much, you
Yes.
know. And I cried out to God even more, and so, I think I was getting like a little closer to Him. But I didn't know anything, born again, saved, you know, special personal relationship with Jesus.
Yes.
I didn't hear that. I went to church on Sunday all the time. I grew up going to church. My mother always made sure we went to church all the time. I went to a parochial school. We had catechism. But I never heard any of those words, you know. So I just thought the only time God was there is when I needed Him, that I would call on Him. Never just have a conversation with Him to thank Him for anything, you know.
But the funny thing is that He was with you.
He was always with
He was
me, but I
always with
didn't
you.
know growing
Yes.
up, you know. And I think one of the hardest things I dealt with when I was 17, my brother had just been killed in Vietnam. And I remember, you know, when I came to the house, and that was one of the roughest times in my life. And I remember going to the funeral parlor, and my father said the coffin was going to be closed. So I thought, great, because then in my head I could keep telling myself he was
Yes.
still alive somewhere, you know, that they were going to come back and say it was a mistake. I don't know why I thought someone else should lose their son, but
Yes.
not my family, right?
Well,
Or their brother.
That's understandable.
Yeah, so finally, the day of the funeral, my mother and father told me the coffin was going to be opened. And I said, no, you told me it's going to be closed, you know. So that's when I realized, you know, we do lose people that we're close to. You know, they're not going to be with us forever and stuff.